This is my 2004 supercharged, manual swapped, HR swapped Nissan Maxima. It has a fully built motor, a 6-speed manual transmission, a VORTECH V2 supercharger, and it is fully tuned. Little backstory on this car is I actually built it because it was my first car, and I would race my friend in his V6 Challenger that he paid over 30 grand for, and he would constantly gloat about him winning, and I said, okay, give me a little time and I'll make it faster. So first things, I added the tune, the bolt-ons, and then from there he upgraded to a scat pack, then eventually a hellcat, and then that made it a game. So I told him, give me some time, I will make something that'll beat that hellcat, and this is what I got. My 2004 Nissan Maxima that has gone way too far. I'm gonna show you guys the entire build process. It's kind of formatted in more of a tutorial. It's been sitting for about a year now. I just haven't had time for it, but now finally upping it, gonna try to finish it. I recorded the entire process and how you can do it for yourself, and I'll be showing you how to do that in a couple parts right here. I'll try to keep it short, but everything in this video, it's been so long since I've recorded it, so it's kind of out of order. Watch all the parts as I post them. I'll be posting the second part very soon after this first part. Watch them all. If you have any questions, just put them in the comments. I'll do an update video and I will answer all the questions, because I know I've had a lot of people ask me, and a lot of people say, how did I do certain things certain ways, and I'm not going to remember it all in making this video. So put a comment down and I will be sure to answer them for you guys. All right, I'm gonna be recording the process on 6-speed swapping. So this is a 6-speed open diff. I thought it was an OSD at first. I think it's just an open diff from a 2005 Altima SER that we're gonna be swapping into my Maxima right there. That's HR swapped and supercharged. I just sold the supercharger, but that's to upgrade it to the V2. So gonna get all the parts, gonna walk you guys through what you guys need to do this for yourself. So first things first, get the transmission. Right now I have a 5-speed swapped into the Maxima, but I'm swapping to the 6-speed because it has a more torquey first gear, I'm pretty sure. But all around, I think it's a little bit better for what I'm trying to do. So grab yours out of an Altima. That's the most common ones. Finding it out of a Maxima is going to be pretty tough to find. Once you have it, my guy said he torched a reverse and going from 5th to 6th, but the block off broke, so he put it into reverse while going full speed. So I just broke it apart to check it. Looks like everything's good. No metal shavings whatsoever in here. There's a little dirt from it being outside, but just set up this little tent, so hopefully it'll be easier. First thing you want to do is just clean it all off. You don't have to tear it down like this. I mean, I would always recommend it just so you can see what you're getting into before you put it into the car. So right now, just using Pro Shop engine degreaser. This thing worked amazing. It looked like that on the outside. Now it just looks sparkling. $10 at AutoZone. Then I'm gonna put it back together with some new silicone. To order some clutches. I'm trying to aim for about 450 horsepower to 500. All right, so after getting it clean, we used a compressor to make sure there's no dust, no debris at all in here. Did pretty well. Same with this side. Clean up all the metal shavings, clean off this magnet, just do a visual inspection, you know. If it's not perfect, you'll be fine. I'm gonna put silicone around this And we're gonna seal those two back up. You're gonna reapply the clamp on the top there and get the proper torque spec for all the bolts around. I have them marked and labeled because some of them are different sizes, so make sure those are in order. All right, we have the silicone applied all the way around. We're gonna slowly lower the top part back onto it and make sure that hose clamp is seated. Make sure these plastic parts are seated in their proper positions. This one did kind of slide out on me. I'm not sure if that's a problem. Yeah, he really cares anyways. Yeah, we'll lower it back down. We'll clean the outside after it's all bolted and back together. Bring off here, I'm taking everything off. So take the headlights off. It's gonna be 2 bolts up there. There's gonna be 4 bolts on the headlight. 1 down here, 1 down here. It's all 12 millimeters except for the headlights, which are 10s. Then 2 more on this side. Take off your whole radiator. There's gonna be 2 10s right here. All your hoses, drain your fluids, pop off any hoses, anything attached. We're just gonna get the whole front end off of the car just so it's easier to put back in. So we just have a Harbor Freight lift, and yeah, be 2 connectors for the fan, 1 there and 1 there. I gotta remove my oil cooler, drain all your fluids, and we're just gonna go ham with the wiring. So just take absolutely everything off, all these grounds. I always leave the bolt in the block just so you know where it goes. Just take off any wire you see disconnected, pull it back until the whole harness is off and to the left. All right, and with that radiator support off, we can get the last of the wiring, all your sensors, get them all off. You have to take off the condenser. You have to take off your oil filter because it'll get in the way once you're trying to jack it up. It'll hit into the frame right here. I take the engine out, I'll show it, but I leave the power steering pump in there just because it's a pain to get off. So I just leave that in the engine bay, and then when I'm putting the engine back in, I screw it back into place. It's just easier like that. Yeah, so we're gonna take all these side things off. I'll show you that when it's there. So once you have all the wiring to the side, you're gonna take off the intake manifold and always cover it up so nothing drops in. There's gonna be 4 10mm bolts to take that off. Then you wanna take all the coil plugs. There's gonna be an oil sensor, and then there's gonna be this guy, and 2 green plugs, that one and that one. You grab those, and also the power steering pump sensor. I show you the intake. You're gonna take all these bolts off. I always just leave them in so you don't lose them exactly where they go. You're gonna take off the fuel rail, which disconnects from there. It's pretty simple. It's 4 12mm bolts. So this clip right here, it's gonna have this green thing around it like that. And then you take this off, it just slides right off. You're gonna pinch these 2 tabs in, it's a bit tricky, and then you're gonna pull up and it'll come right off. To get the engine out, we're gonna jack it up from the 12mm bolts, the 4 of them that you get from the fuel rail. And that, I've done that like 6 or 7 times. It's never been a problem. And then as you're taking it off, you're gonna be removing some of these coolant lines, and anything else connected. So your clutch lines, if you're an automatic, you don't have to worry about that. But then also your cables down here, there's gonna be 2 for a manual, as well as your CV shafts. So 1 on either side. And it's gonna be a 32mm bolt inside the hub to take out the CV axle. All right, so now I have all these lines, all the clips, retainer clips, taken off. So there's gonna be 1 there, 1 at the bottom here. There's gonna be 2 pins for each of those cables if you have a manual. Then you're gonna take off this coolant hose, and then this one back here. This is actually modified, so yours might be a little bit different. So now, with all that off, unbolt the exhaust headers, so those are off. So now, only thing connecting the motor to the car is the motor mount. So we got 1 there, 1 there, 1 on the left, and then 1 right there. So you disconnect those 4 bolts. First you attach the hoist, disconnect those, and it should just be pulling the motor out. I will show you the process of unscrewing the power steering pump because it's easy. easier to do that than taking the whole lines off and all these off, because it's just a pain. All right, so I kind of skipped a little bit, but once you've done that, you're gonna take off this 32mm bolt. You're gonna take off the 3 12s that are gonna be in there holding the axle in, and it should just slide right out. So after that, there's a motor mount here. You can disconnect it from the engine, or you can disconnect it from the frame. I just do it from the frame. There's gonna be another mount over here. There's 5 actually bolts. There's one here, there's one here, there's one there, and then there's one more on the side. There's one more under. You have to go from under to get it out, and it's a bitch, but with enough struggling and banging your knuckles, you'll get it out. Then there's one more bolt on there, one bolt on this front motor mount. I took the whole one out just so it's easier to pull the engine out. Another 32mm on this side. It's going to be to take off this just falls right out. You don't have to worry about it springing up on you. A 17 with a 19 nut on it. I leave this axle in just because it's a pain to pry out. Just be careful not to bang it up on the frame when you're taking it out. If you have an automatic, to get that back motor mount off, you have to come through the wheel well here. You can get it from the top, but it's a lot harder. So I would just get a long extension and run it all the way through that bolt from underneath. And yeah, so we're gonna keep backing it out. The only thing that's left connected is the power steering pump, which we will disconnect the belt. Disconnect the belt by loosening that bolt right there. It's not focusing. I'll show a better view later. Loosening that bolt, and there's going to be 2 bolts inside the pulley, and it should slide right off. And with the motor mostly out, you just have the power steering left. So that bolt right there is going to loosen up the belt for you, and then you're going to slide the belt off. After the belt's off, you'll spin this pulley. You can see one in there. There's going to be a couple bolts. Just unbolt them, and then there should be one more bolt in the back under the header. There's a kind of longer bolt. You're going to unscrew that one right under the header step. 14mm. Okay, so with that, it was actually these 2 bolts right there. I left one of them in, and then the one bolt that goes through there. It's a 14mm. It's kind of a pain to get to. It'll take you a bit, but that one. Once those are off, the power steering pump just slides down. I just set it down there nicely, and yeah, we can pull the rest of the motor out. There's nothing else holding it. Make sure your clutch lines are clear. You don't want to. So I kind of did skip a few parts, so I apologize for that. You're just going to begin stripping down the motor. So I have it attached to this engine stand. You want to get one of those. It's going to make your life a lot easier. You're going to connect the bolts to only the top to the cylinder block, because you're going to be removing this oil pan and swapping it to a manual one. This is already a manual, but if you're swapping to a manual, the automatic is different. So you need to get the oil pan from a manual car and swap it into that. So to start, we're going to take the valve covers off. It was raining. I left it out. Good thing we're rebuilding the engine anyways, so shouldn't be anything too big. You're going to take off the valve covers. It's going to be these 10mm bolts around the entire side, and then these 2 sensors for the crank camshafts. Then same on this side. You're going to take off the intake manifold, the lower intake manifold. Do not rotate this engine assembly until you take off the head cooling pipes or whatever. I'll show you in a second, because if you rotate it, it'll hit into this and it'll crack it. Don't ask me how I know. So with that off, you're gonna set it aside. This is just my pile of Maxima parts. This is what you're taking off, and you're just gonna remove all the accessories. So take photos, do what you got to do to remember how your stuff went on. This is different for me because I am supercharged, and this is a setup for that. So you're gonna have your pulleys, your AC, your alternator, any other pulleys, your motor mounts, just remove all of it. You're gonna remove your headers or catalytic converters, whichever you guys have. Any other brackets, spark plugs, coil packs, everything. Just strip all the outside stuff off, and then we'll dive into the motor. And in case anybody was wondering how I did my oil feed, so this is the oil sensor. It's very close to the axle, but you tap into that with a couple fittings. There's some at Home Depot and Lowe's. They're the exact same size. You just tighten that with some pliers, and then you add this T-fitting. Always have the oil sensor at the straight of it, and then the oil coming from here work perfectly fine. But I am swapping to this guy right here. This attaches and uses the oil filter oil, so should be a little better, but it's a lot more convenient than this guy, which is a little more rigged, so a lot more prone to breaking in this guy because it bends when you push on it. So we're going to swap to that. It'll be a safer method, but if you are balling on a budget, this costs about $10 to make, and you just have a line go all the way to the top to the supercharger. So this is that fitting. It's this extension to a T to this nut to bolt the hose to. Make sure it's tight, and once it's in there, it's a bitch to get out, but I eventually got it. It's just because it has no nut to grab on, but with some vice grips and some good music, you'll get it done. Alright, so everything we're doing now is pretty straightforward. So you want to get all these bolts off. You're going to take both those sensors off. This is all 10mm stuff. If you're building your engine and you're afraid to do stuff like that, I would highly suggest you just read up on it more. You know, you're never going to learn until you try it once, so I don't want to doubt yourself, but do a lot of research. So you're going to take off all these small things that, you know, take your photos, reference them when you're putting it back together. There's a bunch of YouTube videos on how to do this stuff, replacing valve covers, so you can figure out ways to put this back together with just looking it up. But with all that off, take your screwdriver, pop your cover up, place it off to the side. So now we see the cams. It's a pretty clean engine. It's not bad at all. It's good to see. Everything you take off, make sure it's in somewhat of an organized place. So this is my valve cover box. Got all my coils. I'm gonna put plugs in it. All my bolts. Then you just gotta rinse and repeat for this side. Get new gaskets. You can if you're balling on a budget. Doesn't really matter. Oil leak means you have oil. Cam lobes for fatigue, odd wear patterns, so they're very smooth. Very good. That's good. So then you're going to take this guy off. It's just going to be 3 10mm bolts. It's all simple stuff. Then I'll take off this intake manifold, and yeah, I'll probably start with the timing cover after the headers off. Just crack all your bolts. Try to do it with a wrench first. It's gonna be the safest way. And then just, once you have them loosened, move on to your breaker bar. I'm sorry, not breaker bar, impact. Just so you don't strip it. Especially when you get deeper into the engine. So all these cam bolts, with these ones too, don't impact them. Take the extra time. Do it right. One time. It's all learning. It's the first engine I've ever built, so I've never worked on a car in my life before this stupid car. So I can do it. You can do it. I'll try to include all the links on where to source parts. I have a couple people who make the brackets for the supercharger. All the parts you need to basically just bolt this shit right up. But yeah, I'll include links to them. Yeah. I'll also include links in the description to a VIN decoder. So how you find manual parts. So you're gonna go to your local junkyard's website. You're gonna see the VINs of the vehicle. Sometimes they don't have photos of the inside. So you look at the VIN, and then from the VIN or license plate, if you can find that, you can go to a license plate to VIN decoder, where you can find the VIN off the license plate. Then linked in the description, there's a VIN decoder. So you put the VIN, copy and paste it in there. It'll pull up all the specifications for that specific car, and it'll tell you what speed manual it is, what the gear ratio is, and every other thing about that car. So yeah, we're pretty close to finish here. We gotta take off the motor mount, unscrew all these. They're already loose. Now it's just unscrewing them. Then front stuff, and then we'll start actually diving into the motor. Quick touch up on the HR swaps. This is an HR motor out of a 2014 Maxima. One of the few things, such an easy swap. If your engine is blown, just take the time to read a couple forms. I'll try to go over what I can in this video, and it'll tell you what you need to do. It's so simple. So the camshaft sensors, or the lobes for the sensor to read, you just have to take that off. So you're gonna cut an Allen key. They sell them on this Foreman's, pre-made, if that's what you want to do. It's just a couple $100. So you put the Allen key in there, and you take these off, and you just tilt them. You take a Dremel, you Dremel out the center, and you tilt them to the proper position. You just screw them back on, make sure it's on tight so it doesn't move. And then from that, you also shave down this part just a little bit. If you're supercharged or running a different pulley setup, it does not matter. So you can keep the stock ones. You have to knock off the center of the power steering bracket because it's different. So you just grind that part down, whack it with a hammer, call it a day. Swapping the oil pan to whichever transmission style you are running. From there, you have to wire these guys. So normally these are on top right here on the DEs. So from there, they are moved all the way under here. So it's kind of a pain to get to them and plug them in, but once you're in, you're set. It's the same plug, you're just gonna extend the wires. Same on this side. Very simple procedure. These are unplugged, they don't do anything. All right, with this, we'll end it off for tonight. Got all the accessories off except for the harmonic balancer. Just also this axle carrier. I'm gonna take that off too. Yep, and then tomorrow should be back to start tearing apart the cams and the timing.